Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the best duo on YouTube. Undoubtedly, there's just no two other people better. Sambo and Johnny, how are you, chaps?
Good. How are you?
I'm so good. So good. Sam, so full, so filled.
Absolutely. We'll have to see how I go. My voice still has not fully returned. Still not entirely sure what happened to it, but it's approaching the 2-week mark, and it's pretty weak. So we'll have to see how it goes after a podcast.
Sam's been stealthily picking up the habit of smoking 2 packs a day. He's not yet revealed it to the chaps, but we think we're on to him.
It's been suspect for some time.
Speaking of smoking 2 packs a day, my computer smoking a lot of methamphetamine. It is all over the place, my computer, but we soldier the F on here on the Chaps Chat Cats. Tonight's episode, benchmarks for success for the 2025 Cats, plus AFLW Cats news. 7 Geelong players have signed new contracts. We'll get into that part of the show on Patreon, chaps. That's right. You can join up. The Hoops Crew Patreon. I've got to change that banner, Colin. Colin, the banner still says Patreon in 2024. Okay, so we need to change that. First things first. But you can sign up for the Hoops Crew Patreon. You can get a 7-day free trial. See what it's all about. Everything's going here. The animals, the computer. Shut up. I'm recording. It's just an absolute circus in this household tonight. You've heard the blurb 1,000 times. Go and try Patreon. There's a 7-day free trial. Yada, yada, yada. Before, though, we get into the rest of the show, this has just been one of those nights. We need to say a big Hoops Crew Media Networks thank you to our media network sponsor, the one and only Cyril Cook Florist. You can visit them at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. Make sure you spell Cook with an E. You can phone them up on 035 222 222 or you can visit them literally on your own 2 feet at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. If you tell them that the Hoops Crew sent you, they will give you 20% off your next in-store purchase. Valentine's Day, not far away. So make use of that. Chaps, let's launch in to the benchmarks for success for 2025. Now, to set this up, basically what it is, we've each selected a couple of players. We're going to go around the table a couple of times. We'll take a player and say, look, this is the number I'm looking at as the benchmarks for success for this player in 2025. It could be, hey, they need to hit a certain amount of first team appearances. Could be, I want to see them kick this many goals per game or take this many intercept marks, whatever it might be. And that, with a little bit of context added, is us benchmarking those players for success in 2025. And we might keep track of these and like revisit them maybe midway through the season, see how these players are tracking. Or if it's going really horrifically, we may never revisit it again. Sambo, we're going to start with you. Who's the first player that you are benchmarking for success in 2025?
Well, the player I'm benchmarking, who I absolutely have ready in my notes, and I'm not scrambling to find it, is Tom Atkins. He's a player that I feel like, I mean, we've always liked here, like for many, pretty much since we started the pod, really. I feel like he was one of the ones we sort of latched onto and really enjoyed the way he went about his football, what he brought to the club. And I think I've always had some pie in the sky hopes for him. At one point, I thought he was going to just absolutely skyrocket, become the captain, all this sort of stuff. Now, that hasn't necessarily happened, but that's not to say that he's been performing poorly. I just think he's sort of, I guess you would say, plateaued a bit. He's found a sort of a peak, and he's maintained that trajectory. So this for me, benchmark for success isn't necessarily one that he needs to hit, I think, to maintain a spot all year or anything, but it's where it's a benchmark for my personal feelings about where he could be. And that really, I mean, a lot of what he goes about, like his tackles, I don't really have a problem with his tackles, the way he brings that sort of stuff. I would like to see him averaging close to 20 disposals a game. Now, last season he averaged 17.1. That's not bad for mine. But I would like to see him, drift down to that 15 mark very rarely. And if he can push around the 18 to 19 disposals per game, if he can get a couple of those games where, someone else gets injured, he has to step up. There's, people are moved around and he can break that ceiling and get to like a 24 disposals, a few of those. I just think that the talent and the drive and the aggression that he has, I just think that he can be a player that can really be just adding a little more value with a little bit more volume. So for me, it would be around about that, 18 to 19 disposals per match, while maintaining everything else. I think would be a successful year for Tom Atkins.
Yeah, and I think you look back, 2023, like 19.4 disposals per game, 7.5 tackles per game, and 5 clearances per game. That was probably his career best year, even though he probably did some career best things like games in say like 2022. There were some moments in the flag year that he did really well. So what's just so we can really like put a button on it, what's the exact number you want to see him average across the season? Is it 20? Is it 19?
It's 19. Let's go 19. I think it's probably
19.
Yeah, I think
19
if
plus.
If he can have a career best year in that area, because I think with 2023 he was required to do so much too. Like I think if you look at the context of the people that went down and were out and the holes we were sort of having to plug up in 2023, I think he was called upon, and in a lot of ways he stood up. But and that's why I look at this year to sort of go, well, can he bring that kind of stuff while the other team is also operating at peak efficiency?
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that's a pretty fair benchmark, Johnny. 19 touches a game or more for Tom Atkins.
No, I think that's perfectly fair and something that I think he should be looking to achieve himself throughout the season as well. And I think, especially if we're expecting Dangerfield to play less games this year, play, maybe 15, 16 games, then we sort of expect Tom Atkins to be one of those players that step up. He's that senior player, close to being in the leadership group, and is sort of looked up to by the younger players as the next like leading player in that midfield area. So totally agree with Sam that 19, 20 disposals a game is what would be really good perfect season for Tom Atkins.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. And probably important to put in a good year here as sort of time goes on and Geelong continues to restock this midfield. There's been some talk, obviously. I know Paul did a video or two in the last sort of 48 hours about Cats and Matt Rowell being a potential fit. And Matt Rowell, of course, is that high contested, high tackling, high disposal getting midfielder that could come in. So it's going to be harder and harder to maintain your spot in the starting 23 at the Cats as the seasons move forward, and that's what you want. I'm going to go with Shannon Neal as my first player here, and my benchmark for Shannon Neal. This might seem a little bit conservative to some people, but I'll explain why I've gone for it. I want to see him kick 25 goals or more in 2025. So last year, played 15 games, kicked 23 goals, 11. For me, I don't think there's any need for Shannon Neal to be any more than a hardworking, contested marking, selfless third or fourth banana up forward for the Cats in 2025. I've got him, his goal kicking output for me can be behind Jeremy Cameron, Tyson Stengel, and Ollie Henry. I expect all of those guys to kick more goals. So for me, if Shannon Neal can come in, 25 or more goals this season, even if he is at a slightly lower goals per game average, I'd give him a big tick, because what I want to see really is, as I said, contested marking. Let's see that look better than it's ever looked. Let's see those sort of selfless efforts, whether it's just bringing the ball to ground for his teammates. He was actually quite a good tackler, I think, for us last year in terms of our big men up forward. I think he led our tall forwards in tackles per game. Just want to see him doing that grunt work as that third or fourth best forward. And I think 25 goals would be a big tick. 23 last year, 25 this year. And just moments, I want to see flashes of his potential to be a legitimate spearhead in his own right. Even if it's just a few quarters across the season where he dictates a matchup change on him, doesn't need to tear a whole game apart. Let's just see flashes here in, what is it, year 3 or 4 for him, and 25 goals. I don't know if you chaps think that's too conservative or it's too much,
Nah.
but that's where I'm going with Shannon Neal. 25 plus goals.
You and me have talked about it in a previous episode, Jake. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that is a really good benchmark for him. You know, he's going to be. We need him to be the next spearhead. We've still got Cameron there. We've got Ollie Henry, both playing really good football, who can win games for us. So at the moment, it's perfect time for Shannon Neal to come in, kick those goals, and, as you said, show off his potential.
No
100%.
counterpoints here.
Johnny, we come around to your first player.
Yes.
Who is it and what's the benchmark?
I've got Max Holmes, and his benchmark I've got for him is to get 600 plus meters, 10 games throughout the season. If he does it throughout 10 games throughout the season, and he's having a really good season, 10 plus, basically. Like, if he does it 10 plus times 600 meters gained, then that's going to be, it's going to be tough to stop. And I think Cats are going to have a good season if he's able to do that 10 games. Doesn't have to be in a row, just 10 games throughout the season. More would be ideal. But I think, yeah, he's got the ability to get that many meters gained in a lot of games. And he's got the speed, he's got the skills, he's got the kicking. Everything's there for him. So I reckon he should be aiming for 600 plus meters, 10 games plus.
I don't have any sort of like criticism there. Like I think the sky's the limit for Max Holmes. How are you chaps feeling like heading into this season about the whole injury thing? Like, do you have like any concerns, or is it just a case of like, it's bad luck, like to happen twice in a prelim? It's not so much a pattern as it is like just a really bad case of shit happens sort of thing.
It's just shit happens in my books. It's one of those things that it's really disappointing that it's happened twice in 2 prelims. But he's still young. He's probably still got to, get his body still built for the AFL system. And it's at the end of the season. It's a pretty long season, that one. And your body's not going to be 100% fit in the prelim. He does a lot of running, a lot of sprinting. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like a pattern. So I'm not overly worried. And I know the Cats have got a pretty good medical team. So I think he'll be doing a lot more this year to make sure that doesn't happen again in another prelim, because that would be heartbreaking for another 2022 heartbreak for him, because he's a pretty key part to this Cats team.
I just had a look at his 2024, Johnny. He averaged 559.9 meters gained per game. So, he only has to go just a little better. And even then, I suppose he can still average 550. You just want him to clear 600 a bunch of times.
At least 10 times.
So you want 600 meters gained in 10 or more matches. I think he's capable of it. Sambo, we'll snake here. No, we won't. We'll go back to the top. We'll run through it in normal draft order tonight. We won't snake. So we'll go back to Sambo here. Who's your second player to start off round 2?
My next player is Ollie Dempsey. A little bit different in terms of we haven't had as big a sample size to look at as we have with my previous player, with Tom Atkins, to look at his career and kind of what you expect from him. So in a lot of ways, I feel like the benchmark for success for Dempsey is kind of more of the same. Like, I don't think he has to do too much if he can follow that year up with something similar. But there's sort of three or four areas that I would sort of, I'd like him to push a little bit more. So at the moment, in 2024, his goals, he averaged 0.9 of a goal per game. I'd love to see that just go to like 1.5. Like, I'm not asking him to be like kicking 3 or 4 goals, but if he can be kicking 2 here, 1 there, 2, like just a consistent sort of output of goals. And the same for his goal assists. So he's averaging 1. I think with his craft and his vision and the way he gets involved, I feel like that stat wasn't as high, often just because of the team sort of, I don't know if synergy is the right word, but there was a lot of, like, it was a pretty good season, but there was still a lot of, Sean Manor went in, Sean Manor came out, this person got injured, that person got injured, Hawkins was out. Like, there wasn't a lot of consistency. So I feel like sometimes those things he was trying were so out of pocket and so great, but the team weren't on that sort of telepathic, instantaneous communication level. So I don't think he was not trying for enough goal assists, but it was just the conversion rate. So obviously that doesn't entirely fall on him, but I would like to see him push his goal assists also to up around that, 1.5 to 2 a game. His marks are actually pretty decent. He averaged 4.4 marks a game, but I would also like to see that go up because of how many he went for. Like, I think if you look, he could have easily averaged more than that. So I feel like asking for that to be more like 5, because they don't all have to be screamers. Like, with where he's playing, he should be able to take 3 easy ones a game, and then 1 or 2 spectacular ones a game. So I think a lot of his stats could probably be like his inside 50s. You could probably push up a little bit as well, like a little creep in a few of those sort of forward push stats. But I'm going to go with those 3. So I'd like to see his goals and his goal assists go to 1.5 and his marks go to about 5 on average a game.
I like it. That sounds like a very reasonable but ideal progression you got there, Sam. And I think most likely he would hope the coaches will be going, this is what we want to see. Year, 3 for him? So yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable and easily achievable for his skill to get.
I think so.
I like how you done your research there. Well done.
It was all last minute, but it was done.
Very aroused.
I think I just want to throw this back at you just quickly, Sambo. I can hear people in the comments going, man, that's like 35 goals this season for Dempsey. That's pushing up towards like 30 goal assists. It's a lot that's over 100 marks. This to me speaks to how highly you rate him and the type of, like, you like, would it be fair to say you don't see him as like a fringe fun contributor? You see like Ollie Dempsey over the next, say, like 2, 3, 4 years growing into like one of the most 5 important players to the Cats.
Yeah, I mean, I think would
that be fair?
If it was at our meeting, or if it was, I'm sure it was actually in one of our podcasts where I said I feel like he's going to be a key top 5 player in the very near future. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that push on those few stats is unreasonable because of when you already look at how much he was doing in, like, I mean, it was technically year 2, but really it's year 1. Like, he, it was
starter
for all intents and purposes. It was his first year, and he was not far away from any of those stats as it was. And as I said, it was with the goal assists, the goals, and the marks. He was trying for so many more than he has. So the stats don't have his attempted marks. But I think there's probably at least 2 to 3 on average attempted marks per game that he would go for, and like they were either too extreme or just because of his youth he might fumble it. Like sometimes you take ridiculous marks or he'd try ridiculous marks. Sometimes it was just a little chip out of the back up onto the far wing, and he would just, his mind would be 3 steps ahead of himself. He's already turning to play it on, and it would just sort of slip through the hands. So I think, I guess it depends how you frame success too. Like this isn't a pass fail, I guess. So maybe the benchmark isn't, maybe it's not a benchmark, I suppose. Maybe a benchmark would be lower. But personally, I think he's not going to have to do much more than what he was doing to achieve those stats. So I really don't see why he can't, unless it's one of those things where, the opposition really starts taking note of him and really clamping down.
I was just having a quick look just out of interest because I've always thought he has like Stevie J levels of eccentric brilliance and like sort of that diversity. Like, yeah, you can play up forward, but yeah, you can play in the wing. I could see like there were times in the VFL when he used to play midfield and like stoppages and stuff. Stevie J's 2007 season, he averaged 18.6 disposals, 7.2 marks, 2.4 goals, and 1.5 goal assists. Like, I think Dempsey's got that kind of upside if he puts it all together. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely agree
I
there.
think he can, especially the goals. I know that the total number, like, it does start to get like a bit crazy when you add it all up. Like the goal assists, I really went for 1.5 because it's a nice even number and it's more than 1. But it's not 2.
Yeah,
but the goals, particularly, like I can certainly imagine him going for a stretch of 2 games where he can't quite get it and he doesn't kick a goal. But based on last year's form, I can also easily see him having a game where he kicks 4 or 5 because he's just red hot and everyone's like, get it to Dempsey because he's in the zone and he kicks. So I don't think he's going to be kicking like consistently 2 every game, but I absolutely think he can have days where he kicks 3, 4, 5 to make up for those kind of quiet patches. I just think the goals he was going for, and they just didn't always come off. But I think the evidence is there that he wouldn't have to do much more than what he did beyond just convert a bit better in all 3 of those areas: the goal, assists, the goals, and the marks.
Yeah, it's, as I said to you, it doesn't seem like it's a lot for him to improve on. It just seems like a good natural progression for where he's at. And yeah, he summed it up perfectly. Like, last year he had a really sensational season. There was just moments where he just fumbled or just didn't kick it properly or just inexperience got in the way. So, and he's getting stronger, he's getting more experienced. The confidence is building every single year. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, Sam. Like everything you're saying, I can easily see him achieving that throughout the year.
Speaking of players who could be part of the next batch of like that top 5 elite contributors to a future flag at the Cats, ruck stocks, they're important.
You've been on the ruck stocks.
Maybe not as important as they once were. There's arguments to be had that the ruck stocks
this year, Jake.
Maybe you don't.
I'm
big on the ruck. Yeah, I am.
I'm enjoying it a lot. It's good to get the ruck viewpoint.
There's only so many times we can drag Reece Stanley out of the back to tank on his farm and say, "Get out there, old fella." So we've got to start prepping for the future. And speaking about people who needed to spend some time in a back to tank this off season, Toby Conway. My benchmark, that's a bit of a Star Wars reference for anyone who's going, what the fuck's a back to tank? Yeah, that's what that was. And, We're
entitled to their sexual proclivities.
Toby Conway, benchmark for success for me in 2025 for him. 12 or more AFL games. And the caveat is he needs to finish the season either in the team or healthy enough to be selected, but maybe Reece Stanley is just having a burner of a final year. But whatever the case is, it's all about health. I don't even care if he doesn't play the first half of the season. If he plays the last 12 games of our year, that's the main thing. I do not want to go into another season where he's played like 3 games, gets injured, comes back, plays 2, and then goes out and spends the last part of the season and the off season recovering from surgery again. I think his talent is absolutely undeniable. But it's really becoming hard to remain optimistic about his ability to stay on the park. So for me, a dozen games and finishing out the year in the side or at least healthy, that'd be a massive tick for me. I don't know if you chaps think I'm asking too much or too little, but I feel pretty good that if he plays a dozen or more games and finishes out the year in the side, I'm giving that an A plus for Conway in 2025.
Yeah,
Yep.
no,
I agree.
I like it. I like when we agree on things. Johnny
Yes.
finishes out. Who's your last player?
I'm going with Ollie Henry to kick 40 plus goals this season. As I said earlier about Henry and Jeremy Cameron being the ones to lead the attack this year, I think it's big opportunity for Ollie Henry to step up and really take charge of the forward line while Shannon Neal is, building his reputation, his stamina, his body, and his presence out there. He's not going to have to do it all by himself. Obviously, Cameron's there, but I think it's his time to, start taking his turn in being the next spearhead behind Cameron before Shannon Neal can, take on that role full time. Because I can't see Henry being the main target throughout the entire year, but be that really positive, good backup that Nathan Ablett to Tom Hawkins and Tom Hawkins to Cameron Mooney type player. Just that guy who's going to be that danger throughout the entire year to kick those goals that the other spearhead's not going to get. And just be a headache for the opposition.
Yeah. No, I like it, Johnny. So for anyone who's wondering, he kicked 41 goals in his first year at the Cats out of 22 games. Last year, he kicked 37 goals in 23 matches. So I'm with you. I think 40 plus is a great benchmark for him for success. You look at like Tyson Stengel, 53 goals in the first year with the Cats, 27 goals, 9 in his second year, but he only played the 19 games. Year 3, 25 matches, 46 goals, 18. So the way I sort of feel about Geelong's goal scoring threats, and Sambo, I don't know if you've got thoughts on the Ollie Henry 40 plus goal mark, but for me, it kind of goes, I expect Cameron to lead the goal kicking, Stengel to be the second, Ollie Henry to be the third, and then you can drop down to like your Shannon Neal or maybe like an Ollie Dempsey has a big, season of goal kicking. But that's the way I sort of rank it. What are your thoughts on Johnny's benchmark for O. Henry?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a little bit like, I guess, the Dempsey one in that I think that's a good benchmark for success, as in for a really good year. It's not like it's not like below that's a fail. But like I think if he, if Ollie Dempsey only averages 1.1 goal a year, then that's still an improvement and a success in my mind. And it's the same with Henry. If he kicks 35, you're still going to go, oh, that's I think he's fulfilling his role still. But yeah, I think even from a personal point of view for him, like that would be such a good benchmark to tick off. For like from a personal growth and what he's bringing to the team. It would create that three-headed monster that we sort of always thought we were getting, and we were never quite able to get all of them operating at the same time, between injuries and just form patches and that sort of stuff. So if Henry could be that one, and I tend to agree. I sort of think that I feel like I might be wrong. Neal could come out and prove me wrong. I feel like Neal might be, rather than the next step, he might be in that same group as like your Dempsey's, your Myers, and possibly Manor, depending on where Manor plays and how much he plays. Like, I think Neil might be in that tier of our goal scoring where it's like consistent and does get like a lot. But I think you're right. I think it goes Cameron, Stengel, Henry, and then you have a glut of those small forwards and sort of the midfielders that push deep, hopefully kicking a goal or two a game, and I feel like it's going to be another year where Neil's in there, like sort of you were alluding to, Jake. I think, what was your benchmark for him? 25?
25, yep.
Yeah, just purely from how many games will he play, and then how much will he be targeted, and then beyond from there, how much how will his conversion be? So I think I agree with all your points, both of you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when you look at Geelong's goal kicking last year, you had 64 for Cameron, 46 for Stengel, 37 for Ollie Henry. Do either of you guys know who number 4 was?
Last year. So who were the numbers
Yes.
plays again? So Shannon,
It
Jeremy
was
Cameron.
Cameron with 64, Stengel with 46, Ollie Henry with 37.
I do,
Number
because I just but I can't remember it.
Tom Hawkins would be 4th, wouldn't he?
No, Tommy Hawkins was down in equal 8th place. He only kicked the 15 goals in 2024. It was Brad Close.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
That
what
makes
Brad
sense.
Close chimed in with 25.
Sort of build them up.
Yeah, you had that like cluster. You had Brad Close 25, Shannon Neal 23, and impressively, Shannon Neal did it from 15 games. Brad Close had 25 goals in 25. Ollie Dempsey kicked 22 goals in 25. Brian Myers 21 goals in 25. So Shannon Neal, 23 in 15. You were saying. Yeah, I think there's the potential anyway. There's the potential for him to kick more.
The potential's there.
But
He's
it's going to be interesting. Good stuff.
Grasp it and take it by the horns. It's up to him. It's really up to him on how he goes about it.
Can't spend any time on it because in the meantime, every 3 months, a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland.
All right. Thanks for that reminder, Bob. It's good to stay grounded at all times.
Sure is.
The timing
computer
of the
problems did not keep us
far
grounded.
out tonight. It's
terrible. It's terrible. All right. That's it for the public part of the show. We're going to duck over now to Patreon and discuss 7 Cats signing on in 2025 for the AFLW. So go on over, start your 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon. There will be more stuff on the Hoops Crew later this week. Benny and Paul, they keep churning out the content. But yeah, if you want the extended stuff, the bonus stuff, come on over. Join us on Patreon. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate your support. We'll be back next week with another episode. But until that time, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.